challenge that we faced with ever-increasing data. So for the next 30 minutes, we're going to take you back to how we went about backing up more with less, and there's only us standing between you and the tea break. So I'm going to let Harvey talk to you about our experiences.
Hello. We've managed the backups at the university for quite some time, and we back up over 900 servers a night. It's a mixture of virtual and physical still, and it's a mixture of just about every operating system you probably are used to dealing with on a daily basis anyway. Mac OS, all flavours of Unix and Linux, Solaris, Windows, both on Hyper-V, and a little bit of VMware, although not very much. So it is truly a heterogeneous environment, and we are the kind of corporate arm of the university in terms of looking after the data. So predominantly what we do is corporate. However, those lines can be a little bit blurry with the research, so some of what we back up is research as well. Although increasingly those barriers between corporate and research data are being broken down and just smashed really, so it's all kind of changing really. We back up over 200 terabytes a week. The real number is higher than that. A lot of what we do, we back up like one full every 3 weeks because of the amount of data we back up. So but it gives you a kind of rough idea of the numbers we're talking about. So we've been both doing this quite a while. I think I've just said, and much like Stefan's picture that everybody kind of laughed at of the original mainframe, my first backup was to a 9-track tape, so that looked very familiar to me, if nothing else. But then as I was putting the presentation together, I realised that actually my first backup was to one of those, which again, back to Stefan's presentation, was his first digital camera, although it wasn't attached to a digital camera at the time. So these days, we back up to LTO and to disk, and in part at least, this presentation really is about managing the mixture of both of those things together, which enables us to do what we need to do. Excuse me. So critical data used to mean, or mission critical data really, used to mean a relatively small subset of data. We had a report done, a consultant's report done 10 years ago that showed what we needed to back up and protect and replicate off-site, and the numbers were really small. Now you would think they're laughably small, but back then, 10 years ago, that was a significant problem, and we set about solving that problem. But what's changed in those intervening years is now pretty much everything we back up is mission critical to someone. The business might not define it as such, but in reality, if someone loses that data or doesn't have access to it even, that's a really significant problem to them. And if that's a researcher or someone with a deadline, then they will want that back straight away. And there's no hiding place from that. So we set about trying to improve the service we were offering and reposition ourselves more for recoveries than backups. It's very easy to got to tick a box that says yes, we back up, and everybody stops worrying about it. But really, it's about what service we offer in terms of recoveries. Okay, so this is just something for you to think about. I won't ask for a show of hands or anything, but it's, do you back up your data? I'll touch more on this right at the end. And the reason for asking that is really the sub-part of that question is, have you ever been told you don't need to back up? So vendors are quite fond of that question, but I'll come back to that at the end. It's like a little side project for you, really. So the business requirements, I've already said, massive increase in the amount of critical data that we need to protect and really replicate off-site. Basically as simple as that, but also, and this is the changing requirements about compliance, for the first time, you must encrypt that data when it's at rest. This is doubly so for stuff that's off-site, but increasingly in the data center, we're having to protect everything at rest as well, and backups definitely fall into that. We went through a project, I can't even remember, 8 years ago or so, to encrypt all our backup tapes, and that was that became a very easy thing to do. It used to be very hard, but with LTO4 that became an easy thing to do. But now it's anything that lives on disk as well in terms of backup has got to be encrypted as well. I'll come back to encrypt the traffic as well in a sec. And then also scale for the future. So whatever we bought would have to be scalable. We think we know what's coming up, and we can show projections, much like the blue line from earlier. But the reality is what actually hits us is we will get a new project or a new load of data, or someone will find an enormous amount of data and say, you are responsible for this. So we see these kind of like knee-jerk kind of rises in the amount of data we back up, and that's like a scope change really, rather than just you need to back up more data. The replicated traffic wasn't part of the initial specification for the project. It got thrown in right at the end, and luckily we selected a solution that could cope with that. So it became part of the business requirements. Do all of those things and lose a post, by the way. We had a bit of a restructure, and we used to have someone who could run around and do lots of tape movements for us, and that person went away. So yeah, so all of the above, and this is where the losing the bit comes from. So what did we need as a team? Well, we needed something that was easy to manage. We used to be able to dedicate an awful lot of time to running, like the guy running around doing the tapes and things like that, and the processes were quite heavy to do those sorts of things, and that was fine in the past, but becoming more agile, we had to change the way we were doing things. So we needed something that was very easy to manage. Increasingly, there are products on the market that will do the heavy work for you. I'll come on to the support a little bit later, but there's some really good things that, when your vendor rings you up and tells you there's a problem, and that's a nice place to be. So, but on top of that, just things that are really easy to manage, are really easy GUI, and to set up, and that you don't have to interact with very often, becomes really important. So expansion was a key, because we're always growing, and procurement's hard. So if you've got something you can expand, then that's a key feature for us as well. Easy replication, so we replicate to another university. We're lucky enough to have a dedicated link to do that. But it is only 1 gig, or our part of it is only 1 gig. But just replication that will work, and that we don't have to worry about really, and we'll tell you when it's broken. And then the encryption, as I said, we have to encrypt in flight as well, but that turned out to be right at the last minute, the 11th hour, for compliance reasons. And then this, in a way, is the most important part. It had to be something we could afford. We've bought many solutions in the past where we could afford to buy them on day one, but actually owning them proved to be very expensive, whether that's in terms of manpower or expansion costs or support costs. And it was vital for us that whatever we did, we didn't end up in that situation. Kind of brackets again, because it's a horrible situation to be in. I'm sure we've been in something similar. So we wanted to avoid that anyway. And as I was just talking about, trying to reposition ourselves for recovery and trying to stop the focus on actual backups. It's very easy doing this job, especially for a long time, to just focus on your backup performance and are you meeting your SLAs for that. But really, why are you backing up? And you're backing up for recovery, and to try and focus your energy on how fast you'll be able to recover a service or someone's data or a file. And if you focus on that, then the actual fact, the backup bit takes care of itself. You don't need to worry about it, if that makes any sense. So we had some concerns about what we were doing, about how well everything would work together. We use Networker as our backup software. We've used it for over 20 years. It is enterprise class backup software. It's a bit quirky in places, but meets most of our needs. We weren't about to throw it in the bin, and we had a lot of time and effort invested in it. But we also had pretty broad requirements. So we set about doing a proof of concept, and we tried, ultimately obviously we ended up with Quantum, but we tried somebody else's technology, and we really struggled to make it work in our environment. I think there was nothing fundamentally wrong with their technology, but in our environment we really struggled to make it work. what started off as a 1 month proof of concept ended up being in excess of 6 months, and that's a really difficult place to be in. The vendor got very frustrated with us, we got very frustrated, it became a massive drain on time and energy. We were very keen customers, we didn't want it to fail, but in the end we couldn't make it work, and it's quite a hard thing to do, to turn around and say, actually we can't make this work, but sometimes you just have to get on and do it. So so that went over 6 months. So Quantum appeared on the scene, and they were pretty confident that they had some technology that could meet our needs. Of course, we've been around a while and we'd heard those things before. So, as for the reasons of the first company, we were like, okay, well, let's do a proof of concept. Quantum were basically horrified at how long we'd been doing the proof of concept for our original vendor, and were super keen for us not to repeat that. So they set us a 2-week deadline, which we didn't quite meet, which I'll go into in a second. So, not everything went to plan. Basically, we couldn't get the speeds out of the Quantum box that we needed, and this was basically not quite as bad as the first vendor, but it was a very similar problem to the first vendor. And this went round and round, and in a way, it was the second 6 months of the year was like a repeat of the first 6 months. Nothing was going that well. But Quantum were amazing, and they threw resource at us at all levels. We had someone on site working with us, we had access to their developers and their R&D departments, and they would talk about exactly what the best way to use their product was. And it was obviously something in our environment that was making it misbehave. The box normally was working, and we couldn't have asked for them to do more. And although it was not the easiest of time, everybody wanted a solution. We wanted to be buying the product, we wanted to be moving forwards. We had to explain to the business, sorry, I'll still call it the university business, I would have it, why we weren't delivering, but it would have been wrong for us to jump ahead with something we weren't quite happy with. So what came out of that was a really, really good working relationship with Quantum and with our reseller as well, who were Q Associates. And I found that time invaluable. It did take some time to get through all the problems. And basically part of the solution for us was to switch from network protocols to fibre channel. And that kind of goes against what most of the industry will tell you about the way things are going, but for our environment it fixed all our performance problems, and that was the way forward. It did work over network attached, but it just wasn't as performant as we were asking it to be for our recovery criteria. So, having your cake and eat it. So, I can't remember exactly how long the Quantum proof of concept went on, but it was months rather than the 2 weeks that they had demanded. As part of that, when we were first doing it, they basically had a network device that they could give us, or they had a fibre channel. Because of the time delay involved in us extending the proof of concept, really luckily for us, they produced a solution that could do all of those things in one. And that basically meant we could have our cake and eat it. We could order a fibre channel device, but also have the network protocols out of the same device should we need them. Those can be really useful for Oracle backups and things where you want to mount them locally. We don't make extensive use of them, but just the fact that we have that possibility, I like the agility that gives us, the flexibility. And so the other great thing about the Quantum device was the capacity on demand. We've seen this before in their tape libraries, but they'll deliver a box where you have a license feature and you can just pay for the extra license, and that will give you more capacity in the box. Or they'll turn up with some new disk, a disk tray or whatever, and you bolt that on. That level of flexibility was really important to us, as I outlined in the initial requirements. The other thing we ended up with was gold support, and they do that on their proof of concepts as well, which is really good, especially because we've made such extensive use of that. So we kind of fell in love with their support as well. They were really good for us. And then, as I was already said, Q Associates were an integral part in making all those relationships work together. something I skipped over actually, I should have mentioned. When I was talking about our requirements and what we needed, all those things together, the easy to manage, the affordable, the expansion possibilities, and also the encryption, both at rest and in flight, that led us down the road of buying an appliance rather than trying to build something ourselves. That was a conscious decision at the time to buy in a whole solution rather than trying to grow our own. We would, ironically, we were short of time, although we didn't end up saving any, and that was the road that we went down. Okay, so at the end of the proof of concept, there were some very relieved account managers who finally saw us buy some equipment. So we bought a pair of DXO 4700s. So these are the dual protocol units that will do both fibre channel and the network. We initially were using them as fibre channel only, but we also connected them, and we use them in both configurations all at once. The off-site one is not used other than as a replication target. So that is another fairly local university. We actually have dark fibre to that university. We're really lucky. But we only have a 1 gig link between us and that university. The reason for the replication encryption, the reason that became very important, was we will almost certainly have to move that from that university, and that will end up somewhere on the JANIC backbone. So we had to have end-to-end encryption as well. So I could have drawn a really complicated diagram for this, but needless to say, our backup hosts hit that target, and away it goes. We kept it quite purposely high level, although we can go into any detail, well, maybe at the bar if anybody wants that much. And so, yeah, so obviously IP replication. So everything that happens at site A, our primary site, gets replicated onto site B. We keep about 4 weeks worth of backups on the devices. That's enough for any, what I would class an emergency recovery. Anything that's older than 4 weeks, falls into a different SLA in terms of recoveries. So we keep 4 weeks worth on that, and obviously that whole 4 weeks is replicated off-site and protected without human intervention, which was another key feature. And especially with shutdowns at Christmas and things like that, you don't really want to be in a position where you've not taken any tapes off-site, or even if you can't get to site if something's really gone wrong at work. So after 4 weeks, we move the data from the disk-based units off to physical tape, and that's currently LTO5. It doesn't really matter what the technology is, and that lives on campus in another building actually. That's fibre channel connected, that just works. And we then keep the tapes for a further 2 to 3 months before they get recycled. So, why did what we do work? As you've probably gathered from everything I've said so far, that relationship with Quantum, it would not have been possible without really getting into bed with them really and making it work. And they were so willing to do that. At the end of the day, it wasn't, we're not their biggest customer, we're not some big bank or anything like that, but they put a lot of resource in place so that we could find a solution that worked for us. They didn't need to do that. I don't know, certainly out of the first one, whether they made a lot of money on it, I seriously doubt. It was about building a relationship, and that was incredibly valuable to us. We already had a very, very strong relationship with Q Associates, so that was just an extension of that. That was an easy thing to do, and we trust them, anyway. But to do that, for Quantum to do that for us, it meant a lot. We also really tested their support model, and the combination of those things, and obviously the boxes were really easy to manage, and they kind of met all our primary requirements. So we were really happy with that side of things. And then moving forwards, it was about the expansion costs. We knew these things would not stay as we bought them on day one, and it was so we had come to some agreement about costs and discounts, and then it was about using that in a sensible way for the future, which we did do. Well, we have done on several occasions. I'll talk about that in a sec. So yeah, the whole TCO thing, and then the in-flight encryption. So this was such a bonus for us because we'd not spec'd it initially. To be able to just switch that on, it wasn't even a paid-for feature, I don't think. I can't remember. I have to be corrected on that. I think it was out of the box, and So to be able to do that was such a big benefit when we hadn't foreseen that. So extra features that you think you won't need, it just turns out sometimes you do. So the whole plan all along really was to turn this into a blueprint solution that we could just run again. So it was not too ambitious in scope. So we could have made it much more difficult to achieve. We could have said we'll buy much bigger units and we'll back up everything to them. So the idea was to keep the scope small enough that it was achievable, and then if it worked, we would just run the whole solution again and basically buy the same kit again and double up. So that's exactly what we did. So still with the original pair in production, we bought everything we bought again and rolled it up as a second solution. That was really quick to do. You know, the delivery was quick, the installation was quick. We had a solution there waiting to go, so we just did it all again. I don't know, Quantum probably would have preferred we just bought a bigger box to start with and did everything in one go. But for our point of view, it was a scalable solution, and we could buy another pair if we needed to now. And so that works really well for us. So both units back off to tape after a month, as I was talking about before. And subsequently, we've expanded all 4 units. So I think they're up to 60 terabytes each now. They were probably bought with about half that. So one of those was a license key upgrade. So they deliver all the disks and you just enable the rest of it, which is really good because you get the performance across all the disks from day one. But that ability to expand those units was vital for us because we knew we'd have to increase the amount of data that we put into them. So I can't remember what they max out. It's something like 120 terabytes or something like that. So we know there's a lot of expansion capability in those units. And there are other things you can do. We hold 4 weeks on those boxes. We could reduce the amount of retention we have on there, but for us it's worth the extra money to carry on and just expand. So we really like them for that. So this is slightly higher. It's on topic since we're talking about backups, but the question I asked you earlier about do you back up? The reason for asking it is increasingly hanging out in the world we do, I'm coming across this vendors trying to persuade you that you don't need to back up. I don't like it, that's why I've got a slide on it. Most storage vendors will snapshot their arrays and they will tell you as a result of that you don't need to back up and that you should recover from snapshots of the arrays. I think that's a dangerous practice. I do know. So I think if you lost a service or even a building, then as long as you've got a replicated array, the very best way you can recover from that outage is to use your snapshots. They are fantastic things to do a whole service or a whole volume or a whole LUN or a whole host. They are amazing things. However, I don't like to stake my job on the fact that one vendor is looking after all my data, and that's why I don't like that as an argument. So I thought I'd just throw it in today for fun. So belt and braces really. Keep your data protected at an array level because that's the fastest way you can do recovery, but back up to something else that's not made by the same company, preferably, is the other one. There you go, that's me just talking. Final word from our sponsors, as it were. Visit the Quantum stand downstairs. I see this man. They're very good and helpful, and we've got a good relationship with them, and also Q Associates. And neither of them will thank me for those photos, but I took them earlier. So you can take them account for that if you want. That's the end of the presentation. I never started my timer, so I have no idea how good that was. Any questions?
How do your services assess or pass, and what impacts that having on your storage, and why wouldn't you look at a assess or pass storage option?
For backups?
Potentially.
It's still an option. Generally, the amount we back up or store, primary storage or bursted backup, generally they're uneconomical for us. So once you go above 100 terabytes, it gets really crazy. So another reseller cloud provider said to us that they could store one of our backup sets off-site, and it was going to be £20,000 a month. That's one backup set. Now, it's an important service, and it's grown a bit, too much over the years. And I just laughed, and I said, well, if you can make it a tenth of that, then that becomes an interesting number. So generally, it's cost. The costs don't seem to scale properly. And if you're an SMB, you've got 10 terabytes of data, I think they're an outstanding choice. When you're talking about 200 terabytes or a petabyte, I don't think they scale in quite the way that we would all hope. So I think the day will come.
So from that, I'm hearing that your applications are all in-house rather than SaaS for your corporate stuff.
Yes. Well, it's a mix. Everything's a mix. There's our emails with Gmail. It's some things are moving that direction. Some things are not quite there. Some things are, I don't know, maybe even a decade away. It's really complicated, and it changes by the day. So, yeah. But yeah, money is my short answer. Anyone
And
else?
budgets.
Yes.
The budget that comes out of.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
OPEX
CapEx
versus.
or OPEX.
Yeah, that's a big deal for us. Not for everyone.
What do you do to ensure that you're not backing up stuff that's of no use to anyone?
Unfortunately, nothing. So the saddest days in our existence happen when somebody tries to do a recovery and it's not there, and that's like about as sad as it gets. Doing what certainly I do for a living. So the answer to that is nothing. Very often people come to us and say, "Oh, you don't need to back up the C drive. All my data's on E or whatever." And normally those sets are small enough that we say, "Don't worry about it. Just it dedupes anyway." Something we didn't even talk about, which is really funny, by the way. I didn't even talk about the technology that makes all this possible, which is dedupe. We can have a whole chat about that as well. So we don't do anything. Now, this is a massive failing on our part. The business is putting at jeopardy things it really cares about because it refuses. Funny enough, I sat in the presentation, the keynote earlier, thinking about this, and it's just the business refuses to prioritise the really important stuff, and we end up catching everything. And it's a significant problem, and I don't know, it has the potential to break us unless we address it properly. The answer is nothing, and I'm basically ashamed to say that, but it's a really good question. If you've got a better answer than mine, I'll happily talk to you at the bar about that. Anybody else? No? Thank you very much for your time. I'll be kicking around. Feel free to grab me and Sandra at any point.